Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is Ukraine War News Update for the 27th September 2023. First part thereof. I did release an update extra video last night, but YouTube restricted it, and I just want to give you an update here because this is insane. I chopped it up into its constituent parts and released each of them to YouTube. One was just about snipers, nothing dodgy, literally no image. No vocabulary that was dodgy, just how snipers are used tactically, restricted. One on ATACMs, literally diagrams of ATACMs, talking about how they explode in midair with submunitions. No dodgy vocabulary, restricted. A cartoon of Ukrainians talking about rubber tires being used. A bit of a comedy cartoon, restricted. Everything I post at the moment is being restricted 100%. Yet after my frontline videos, uploading in different ways, restricted. It's just really frustrating. So I'm not asking you guys to do anything other than maybe, if you've got time, I don't think it make any difference, but whack a complaint into YouTube, because it's frustrating. It's meaning the channel is kind of untenable. The amount of time, like. I do spend almost all of my day, working on this channel. And when YouTube literally, so I was releasing videos last week, not a problem. This week, everything restricted. Can't work it out. And I've spoken to them on live chat. Absolutely pointless. I put in feedback, complaints, yet to hear. Just anyway, that's my whinge over. This will no doubt be restricted. So, restricted means that they don't put adverts on it. And by not putting adverts on it means basically you end up spending all your day doing this stuff for free, which is, fair enough. It's my obsession. But actually, I also quit my job to be able to do this. So I had to pay the mortgage type thing. So, and again, I'm not asking anything from you guys other than maybe a complaint email to YouTube. That that's the intention of me saying this, but I am also venting my frustration because I'm really frustrated with you. Anyway, that said, let's get on and do some proper news here. This is the Ukrainian General Staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before. All usual caveats apply, and you can find them in my description to this video below. What does this tell us? Well, personnel drops to 320. That's interesting. What's going on there? 3 tanks, 4 armored personnel vehicles. There's a definite drop in numbers given by the Ukrainian General Staff for those categories. And I'm not sure what that signifies, because by all accounts, it has gone... Well, there are some claims that Ukrainian artillery in the Robotinet sector has gone apocalyptic. And it's a major push in that sector. However, there's also virtually no evidence of what's going on in that sector. There's going to be operational security, but Andrew Perpetua's live stream was talking about last night how there's just, nothing. It's really, there are claims about half of Lvov is being taken by the Ukrainians and Novoprokopivka as well, and actually there's no evidence to support any of those assertions. There's a lot of people asserting stuff, a lot of people getting quite excited about how the Ukrainians might be taking all this ground and doing really well, but trying to join that up with actual evidence is difficult. Now, sometimes, we have seen regularly before when the Ukrainians have done these big kind of attacks, that it does take some time for evidence to filter through. It might be 2 or 3 days later, you're like, oh, okay, so it looks like the Ukrainians are over here, and here's some evidence to support that. But at the time, you get these kind of rumors that are supposedly coming out the front line, and there's operational security, fog of war, and it's all very murky. Anyway, back to the General Staff, they say 38 artillery systems taken out. That's a massive number. Again, we're seeing this every day. Just a truly phenomenal amount of artillery. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about artillery in a second. 1 anti-aircraft warfare system, not sure what that is. 24 drones, that's not from last night, that's the night before. 29 vehicles and fuel tanks and 2 pieces of special equipment. Obviously, 29 vehicles and fuel tanks is pretty sizable number in that category, although we have seen a lot more than that as well. But let's go to Oryx, the visually confirmed losses, the aggregator in open source. 11 Russian vehicles, 5 Ukrainian. Let's look at the Russian vehicles. So that's a 2-to-1 ratio of Russian to Ukrainian losses. Here we have a bit of a mix of stuff, I guess. Nothing too significant there. Yeah, but when we go to the Ukrainians, this includes a Marder 103, which is, I think, the first one that's been seen as destroyed. 2 Mi-8 helicopters, but that was from March 2022. That is that's right at the beginning of the war. That's just an old one added in. And a MiG-29 fighter aircraft destroyed. So that's the one I showed you at the airport in Mykolaiv Oblast yesterday. And that's obviously a significant loss. Possibly because he did a live stream last night at Andrew Perpetua, the mapper I rely on, that hasn't done an update of his visually confirmed losses. So we'll leave it there with Oryx. The Marder that was taken out, there's evidence of that here. It's the first confirmed destroyed Marder. That's a German infantry fighting vehicle. Now, lots to talk about with regard to this. Goodness me. Okay, so if you remember, the headquarters in Sevastopol, naval headquarters, were hit with Storm Shadow missiles. And coming out that initially was the claim that Sokolov was injured. Then that got upgraded with the SBU claiming that he had been killed. And then yesterday, and people are saying this on my threads, and some pro-Russians saying, oh, this pretty much slams the credibility of the Ukrainians' claims because it looks like Sokolov is alive. There's this meeting with Shoigu that was then put out on the Russian socials. Okay, so Russia shows alleged footage of Black Sea Fleet commander previously reported killed. Russia's defense ministry published a video yesterday of a meeting between military leadership and Admiral Viktor Sokolov, previously reported by Ukraine as killed, joining the meeting through a video call. Sokolov, the commander of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, whom the Ukrainian military reported as killed in the Sevastopol strike on the 22nd, is only seen joining the meeting online and does not speak throughout the video. The Kyiv Independent couldn't immediately verify the date the meeting took place, and this is key. So lots of people have gone and looked at this, and there is a load of contradictory claims coming out. So the SSO reacted to the appearance of the video with the commander of the Black Sea Fleet, Sokolov. Quote, available sources claim that he was among the dead. Since the Russians were urgently forced to publish a response with an apparently alive Sokolov, our units are clarifying the info. In other words, the Ukrainian intelligence basically are saying, we genuinely thought he was dead. That's what our intelligence is saying, our sources are saying. But the claim that he's alive means that we need to go back to the drawing board and have a look at, well, not back to the drawing board, but we need to have a look at this. There are lots of claims about him. That looks like he's got a pillow behind his head, so this could be from a hospital. He doesn't speak. Some people saying the side of his face might look injured and so on and so forth. Loads of claims. Other people saying that there's a directive that they have to be sitting on a white seat so that their uniforms look stronger. And so it could be that certain one of them, because his doesn't look upholstered like others, but it's not like they've all got the same seat. It might be they have black seats, so they put like sheets over. I mean, that's literally what this looks like. So it's a pretty plausible explanation. Anyway, people have been doing a bit of analysis of the video feed. So this is a pic taken from one of the previous Russian MOD's conferences, 20th of June, where Sokolov was also present via video. I couldn't find it in better quality, but it is visible that he had the same wider than others white chair back. So I doubt it's a hospital bed as some claim. Important clue, investigative media Agentstvo found Sokolov in the same setup in July. So it's 3 times altogether. I don't think they copied his video every time. So this guy thinks he's still alive, although there is also admission that in the video feed that the Russians provided yesterday for this, Shoigu has glasses, then suddenly doesn't have glasses, and then has papers and doesn't have papers, and other people saying actually that has been seen in a meeting before where, he takes his glasses off, but it's all really dodgy and it's kind of 50-50. So KIU here says there is no doubt that the RAA video is somehow edited, but it could still be from the same day. It contains 2 Shoigus, one with glasses and papers, and the other with the footage of Sokolov. It has neither during one speech. Lip sync does not match either. Although, other people, it may simply be footage from another part of the meeting, but the emphasis on showing Sokolov is obvious. In other words, it looks like Russia methinks the lady does protest too much. So they're really trying to show Sokolov is alive, but they're showing not really convincing footage. Like there's no tape stamping, there's nothing that indicates that this was in the last few days. And then this morning, the Russians have produced this bit of footage. So Russian media published an interview with the commander of the Black Sea Fleet, Nikolai Sokolov, talking to the Black Sea Fleet talking about the Black Sea Fleet operations. I still doubt he's alive, says no reports, as there was no mentioning of the attack on Sevastopol to prove the Ukrainian intel is wrong. And there are other claims, I don't know if it's in this video, but there are other videos of this situation where he's walking up to the camera, and it's through this room and up these stairs, and some people have been saying that is the naval headquarters that has subsequently been destroyed. So in other words, and I don't know, I have no idea what the inside of this room is. All I'm saying is that some other people are saying that this video is from inside the naval headquarters, so it can't be from after the strike, since the strike was on the naval headquarters and they've demolished most of the rest of the building now and blah, blah, blah. Don't know. I don't, and I don't know about this either. I mean, he may well be alive. So you've got lots of options. He's injured, but alive, and has been wheeled into a meeting or whatever. He's, from a hospital bed or something. He's dead, and these are non-time-stamped videos that claim by implication that he's alive, but actually he's dead, and these are taken from before the strike, or these are genuine and he's alive. Right, there you go. There are your options. You make up your mind. It's dangerous to say he's definitely dead when we don't have enough information, but it seems that the Ukrainians, it's not in the best interest for Ukrainians to make claims that are easily disprovable. Right, so the Russians will lie about stuff and they don't seem to care because they're playing to their domestic audience. The Ukrainians are not playing to a domestic audience. So when the Ukrainians make announcements, it is you or I that are listening. It is politicians from other countries, and they then make decisions on the back of how much they trust the Ukrainians. So the Ukrainians lie, it's not good for them. They then lose their credibility. So when they say things like, this guy's dead, that would indicate that they probably genuinely think he is dead, right? The Russians, they lie about, the Ukrainians have lost twice as many aircraft as they physically have. So, they don't care about actual objective truth here. They can lie to their domestic audience, and their domestic audience will lap it up, and they have no way of disconfirming those claims. But there are two different approaches to how these sides manage their information and manage their claims. Point being is that the Ukrainians probably think he is dead. Whether that has an effect on the probability of him actually being dead or not is another thing. Right. So the commander of militants of the DPR, Khodorkovsky, he's a source that often gets dipped into. So I've used him as a source for making claims before because he's something of a realist and he's actually fighting on the front line. Anyway, I'm not sure what's happened here, but he's come under fire. He survived. And his car is obviously riddled here and explosions, but this is not a military car, so I don't know if this is him using a civilian car in a military area, or whether this is him, being attacked by partisans, saboteurs, behind the lines, just as he's going about his non-military business, maybe. So I'm not sure, but anyway, that claim's out there. Right, Nikopol has been absolutely hammered. I should probably tell you where that is. So Nikopol is to the north of the reservoir, on the way to Zaporizhia there. And it is one of these places like Mahanets as well that gets absolutely hammered by Russian artillery and has done for ages. These are both quite industrial towns, and they are just consistently hit. And while I tell you about it today, it's not that today's a specifically different day, but just to remind you that there is still a lot of artillery hammering Ukrainian towns. During the night, the Russians shelled Mirove territorial community and Nikopol with heavy artillery. Reports ahead of the Dnipropetrovsk regional military administration. So on and so forth. Don't know what the targets were. Claims here that private houses, cars, gas, and electricity lines were damaged. And then talking about gas, here is a massive explosion that has taken place, or a big old fire as well. You can see from that in Poltava region, which is much, is way away from the front line. Let's try and remind myself. Where have I gone? Right, Poltava, where are you? Right in front of my face. So there you are, by sort of to the east, or I guess east southeast of Kiev, on the way to Kharkiv, and that around there's been an explosion. I don't think it's anything to do with anything dodgy, but it's a bit like Russia on fire. It's significant, and this is a gas pipeline that became depressurized and exploded. So whether that's connected to the war, I don't know. Maybe a knock-on effect from something that's happened elsewhere. Who knows? But it is significant, as you can see. That might affect energy going forward. In the center of Yeysk, Krasnodar territory in Russia, where actually, is that near where there was that big strike the other day? No, it's not. That's Krasnodar. That's something else. Anyway, this is like Pierce. City of Yeysk, Krasnodar territory, where the branch is located. Bank branch is a big old fire ripping through that. Again, Russia on fire. And then in the eastern town of Ishimbai, in near the Kazakhstan border in Russia, chemical factories on fire. The specialized chemical plant of the Catalysts in Bashkortostan. So again, Russians dealing with quite a bit of fire, and it doesn't help when someone like this throws a Molotov cocktail at a recruiting office in St. Petersburg. So that kind of activity is still taking place. They do like to film themselves, which is always a little bit dodgy. But nonetheless, that kind of activity is still taking place, which gives you an indication of how popular the war might be for those who are potentially going to be called up. Right, going on to strikes, and this is significant. Right. Andrew Perpetua, in fact, I'll probably bring up his map to show you because he's got it all linked. But Andrew Perpetua talks about how the Russians, and I've mentioned this over the last week a number of times, the Russians are really hammering the Ukrainians with aviation. It is significant. So a lot is taking place over the Dnipro River, but it's not just there. They are hammering all over the front line, as all these little aeroplane symbols, all the way back in, and each of these will be a number of different, it's not just one bomb dropping here. That's an airstrike with a bunch of bombs each time, and a few going on in Konstantinivka. Lots of airstrikes taking place, and indeed lots of as you can see, all these airplanes, all of these signify airstrikes, and a big old FAB or KAB 500 bombs, and they are also taking place along the border into Ukraine from Russia. So just there's an awful lot of activity, and it is really significant, and this is a huge challenge for the Ukrainians. That is absolutely for sure. As well as strikes like that, there are the usual ones from the Ukrainians. Here we have an explosion at a metallurgical plant in Donetsk. Donetsk seems to be getting hit quite a bit by the Ukrainians. Something burning in the Russian city of Bryansk. A local man filmed a drone flying overhead. So there's
Сижу, жду электричку. Полетел нахуй.
Now, so this is quite significant, okay? Euromaidan Press sort of talks about this, referring to reporting from Ukraine. So reporting from Ukraine's video was largely about this, and you see from the image there that these three regions to the north of Ukraine actually saw a whole host of drone activity yesterday, and different types of drones as well. So this one in Bryansk that you just saw there, that is a reconnaissance drone. It's not the sort of drone that blows up. So they are reconnoitering, doing reconnaissance in Bryansk. obviously to find targets, to look at where air defenses are, as well as sending explosive loitering munitions to Bryansk and to the other regions as well. So the Ukrainians are really focusing on aerial threats into Russian territory quite a lot at the moment. So yeah, that's drones into all of these three regions and causing quite a lot of damage, as well as finding out targets. So that's something we're going to continue seeing going forward for sure. Moscow, that's today. There's something is on fire near Moscow. There was also why do I not have it? Fire near it was last night in Moscow. I need to find that. Hang on a second. Yeah, it was this one. I have a feeling I know why it's not, because 2 tweets were deleted about this. So be careful about this. There was apparently a big fire near an airfield. Someone's claiming it was at an airfield. I don't think it is, and in fact, some tweets have been deleted. So not sure about this one. But it was doing the rounds last night in Shelkovo near Moscow. There was a big fire near the airfield. So whether that might have been an old bit of footage that was circulated and actually hasn't happened in the last 24 hours, I don't know. But that is still doing the rounds quite a bit. But a few tweets have been deleted about it, which usually signifies that some claim about it is dodgy. I know someone claimed it was at an airfield and then took the claim back and said, no, it's not at an airfield. It's near by 2-1. Anyway, on to other bits and pieces. Officials in Russia have started building railway links to occupied cities in Donetsk Oblast. Russia started building direct railway links to the occupied Ukrainian cities of Mariupol, Volnovakha, and Donetsk, which could decrease Moscow's logistical dependence on the Crimean Bridge. Petro Andriushchenko, an advisor to Melitopol's exiled mayor, said today. The official noted that if these efforts are successful, Russia will connect the railway line of Mariupol as Lanove, Kalchik, Volnovakha in occupied Ukraine with the Russian cities of Taganrog and Rostov-on-Don. This is actually fairly significant. If they are able to do that, then this solves a bit of a problem they have. I mean, the issue is that Volnovakha, if I go to Andrew Perpetua's map, so this comes through, the railway goes near Volnovakha, which is under threat from, that's down here from, we measure that, you can hit it with artillery essentially. But yeah, it's 25 kilometers. It's easily in artillery range, and as a result of that, you can take out the railway infrastructure at Volnovakha and along here. So it is vulnerable, and that's why it's not really being used to supply. That's why they have to come up from Crimea at the moment, because actually the railway in this area has been compromised mainly around there. But if they can connect this railway through to the east from Mariupol, and I don't know if this is lower than Volnovakha, which is up there. So if we go back to the map, it looks like they are coming at it from around maybe here, rather than at Volnovakha, further to the south here, and then connecting that to Rostov-on-Don and Taganrog. Then that could solve a big problem for the Russians. So you can see why they might be frantic. I presume they're frantically trying to do that. If I was in charge of the Russians, that would have been priority number one, but that probably would have been priority number one like a year ago. But there you go. The EU has published reports on how tech companies, including Facebook, Google, and TikTok, are thriving in the fight against disinformation. Elon Musk's X platform, formerly Twitter, is recognized as the largest means of spreading Russian lies and propaganda. Right. Now, yes, Elon Musk, I often bring him up, and lots of you like, why do you always attack Elon Musk? It's like, well, because he does things that don't help Ukraine. That's why I do. And anyway, reports have now come out, and the mainstream media is reporting on this, and this isn't just a case of being hard on Elon Musk because you hate Elon Musk. This is an EU report that has looked at all of the social media platforms and said, actually, Facebook, Google, and TikTok are doing a really good job to fight disinformation, and Twitter, X, are not doing a good job, and it is allowing Russian disinformation to thrive. The most major platforms have agreed to work with the EU on a voluntary code of conduct that aims to set industry standards for fact-checking and other measures. There's a voluntary code of conduct, and it's about fact-checking to try and make sure information is reliable, that is spread on these platforms. But X, that is no longer subject to the code, is the platform with the most disinformation posts. So they don't adhere to that, and there's a huge amount of disinformation on it. So there you go. It's not good there. So here, BBC News reporting Russian disinformation is most active on X, formerly known as Twitter, says the EU. So that's, I don't know whether I'll look further into that. I'll probably incur the wrath of all the Elon Musk acolytes. But this is a problem, and I can, from my own experience of Twitter, and I have quite a lot of it now, right? I would absolutely agree with it. With this, it's demonstrably true. It is rife. Like the amount I've talked you through, like evidence of trolls on Twitter, just is demonstrably the case. Okay, moving on to something else. In first such case, a Russian POW's wife has fled Russia for Ukraine, as revealed in an interview with Vladimir Zolkin. Quote, there are no exchanges because of the Russian side. If I'd seen that there were exchanges, I would not have come, Irina said. So this is the wife saying, well, he wasn't going to get exchanged, so I didn't really have an option. I didn't want to, but I fled from Russia to Ukraine to be with my husband, who is a POW. Interesting. Probably a good PR opportunity for the Ukrainians there. Be happy to see. But, I mean, it's one of those things where he's thinking, this must be really difficult, where, right, I'm a POW, doesn't look like I'm going to get swapped because, for whatever reason, don't know why, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get to go back to Russia anytime soon. This war looks like it's going to go on for quite a long time. Now my wife has come over here and fled Russia. My chances of going back to Russia are really slim now because they're going to lynch me when I go back because my wife's fled. So that and what a difficult situation that is for him. It's basically great for the Ukrainians, you know, because they have leverage, I guess, over this guy and the PR that comes with that. The Russian mill blogger lashes out at the Chechens. I've noticed a rise in ethnic tensions. I just thought this was an interesting observation that I have seen in a number of different sources as well. So P-Star11 says, I've noticed a rise in ethnic tensions in the Russian army very recently. This seems to be the result of a failed Ukrainian counteroffensive. When things go bad, right, people lash out. You know, when economic hardship hits a country, economic hardship means people blame all sorts of other people. You blame immigrants or this demographic or that demographic. It's like, right, okay, I'm going to attack people who are not like me because it's all going wrong and it can't be my fault and I can't just blame the universe. So it's got to be someone's fault, so I'm going to blame you. Now, imagine when your counteroffensive, or sorry, your whole military project starts going wrong. It's like you're going to lash out. And so the question is, who do the Russians lash out at? And if we start seeing stuff like people lashing out in racist, ethnic ways, it's not so much that I'm not so bothered about the fact that they're doing that and it's like seemingly racist, right? Or actively racist. That's not the point. The point is it reflects that things aren't going well for the Russians. That's the point of me talking about this. I just find it interesting. Sometimes it's the little things. I always talk about this, don't I? Concentrate on the little things. They can actually tell you quite a lot. The Russians are burning reserves and undeserved privileges to stay in the back are increasingly becoming difficult to justify. The newly 7th and 76th VDV deployed to Verbovy, Kopany and Novopokrovka are already pretty exhausted. Soldiers are requesting rotation, though they have been there for a couple of weeks. They are not being rotated because there is no replacement at the moment. So all these things compound to cause a really low morale and a lack of hope, and then you start seeing people attacking. In this case, as a post attacking Chechens. We've seen posts attack. I think below here is there. Yeah, there's here a Russian soldier from the 71st Regiment, an ethnic Kabardian from North Caucasus, tells how he was beaten up by the Russian military police in Tokmak. It's not going well. And I think you will start seeing more of this. Anyway, I'd share that with you. Please like, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching. I will get back to you with my second piece shortly. Toodle pips.